institutions of society. And we're just talking about really basic things like, are there after-school programs? Because if there aren't, somebody is going to be taking care of the kids. Is there affordable childcare, right? Is there protection or any form of support for maternal health, right? So these are all things that if you have, the reason for wanting to have 50-50 is that it's the only way that you can make sure that on the ground someone's going to pay attention to those social reproduction issues. So, yeah.
You kind of started answering it. As you were speaking, I've just been thinking a lot.
Yeah.
But where I'm running, particularly in my district, it's all men represented.
Oh wow! Where's your district?
It's District 30, Senate District 36, but Council District 12 in the Bronx. And from the congressman to the assemblyman to the council and the Senate, everyone, they're all men.
Okay.
Everyone in leadership is men. So I'm thinking I'll be the first, not the first one, but I'll be the only woman, particularly in that district, that would be running. How do you kind of use that message that you were just talking about? You hit on a few of those topics like childcare and women issues, but how do you kind of use that as a strong point in running?
Can I underscore that to give you a little bit of perspective? The Bronx County Committee is also the battleground that she's talking about. This is where Ruben Diaz Sr. comes from.
Okay.
And Marcus Crespo, who is the county leader, is a member of the Reuben Church. Okay, so it's sort of like incestuous.
Infringement. Yeah.
Right.
So what's going on? And then the borough president is the son of the
council
father.
member.
Right.
So that's why
Yeah.
it's like a little bit convoluted, because the seat that she's looking for particularly was occupied by Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson before the current person.
Wow. Okay.
So she era when the
that's so
senator
interesting.
did not get the nod. And because I asked the then county leader, Carl Hasty, why she could not come back, because she stepped down to run for mayor. Because I'm very familiar with this situation. And what was said by Carl Hasty, the county leader at the time, was, we asked her, and she said that she wasn't going to come back but I think it was short-sighted on his part as the county leader, because there was an assumption made that she felt she was going to win as mayor. When she didn't win, there was time for her to come back. And county made the decision they were going with another young man who they felt they wanted to groom to be up and coming. He had a cute little family, he's 20-something. He needed the nod versus somebody who had already been seasoned in the job and was familiar.
In our community, in our district.
Well, this is the bigger platform of what is being dealt with. And that's why a class like this is so important, because we're telling the truth. And we're not shutting our eyes and believing the Kool-Aid. We're sipping the Kool-Aid.
So I think
running in general, that's what you said. Everything you said is so paramount, because even running in the seat that I ran in as a Republican woman of African descent, being a Republican, the first to run in that space in 35 years, really 50. It was 50. But the truth of the matter is that the few women who are in so-called leadership roles, positions of power, far and few between if we look at it across the board, unfortunately, throughout New York City. City council is shrinking in terms of women leadership roles. And so the class is urgent, and there should be more women that should be clamoring to get in. When we talk about what you bring up in terms, I'm a mother as well, 2.2 children. And what happens is, when I ran,
that's the dog and the cat.
That's two overachievers. Those are two overachievers. You don't want to just be one individual.
Because when you have two, it's more than 1 and 1.
Exactly. So at the end of the day,
it's not mathematical. It's just true.
And when you run and you're on the platform, you talk about how to use it. I use everything in my background and every arsenal and everything I can think of, even the lint in my pocket, depending on the because as a mother, you really learn and develop different skill sets. And so it's critical that as women, single and or as a parent, to understand that the future generations do depend upon your leadership. It's really critical that we understand the responsibility of even sitting here if you choose to. And which
something. I do think that the kind of feminism that we got through the law and through the stretching of equal protection was for a woman was to really never mention the fact that you were a mother, right? And just be just like the men and successful on those same terms, right? And I think we've seen, and that was actually what's really interesting is that even in the 1940s in Germany, those women are talking about motherhood on the floor of the Constituent Assembly debates. And even the women who are not themselves mothers are going in there and saying women are mothers of the nation. And so it's a very interesting thing where there's a real kind of embracing of the identity of motherhood. Whereas I think that the way that our anti-stereotyping sex equality or gender equality law developed in the United States, and not just the law, the politics around it, was that if you say that you're a mother, it's a sign of weakness, or it's a stereotype of women, and essentialism, right? And so it was always something that was downplayed. But I think we're actually seeing a shift now. If you see the Democratic women who are coming forward for 2020, I think the fact, and not just the presidential election, I think that a lot of the women and the younger women who have been running in the last 3 years have actually been very vocal about their experience as mothers and how that gives them a perspective, not because like it's biological or something, but how the experience of juggling actually helps us understand what's needed at a public policy level in order for the next generation of Americans, not just my own children, but everyone, to be successful, whether it has to do with things like education policy or childcare policy or affordability of housing. Yeah, yeah.
You know what else I think is interesting? In this whole presentation, this whole discussion today, nobody mentioned about fathers. And what is the responsibility of fatherhood?
Yeah.
That's not a focal point.
But it.
But this is the discrepancy. In a way, the founding fathers don't even address fatherhood.
Yeah.
But it's a de facto responsibility of the woman. I mean, it's sort of like when you're in therapy, and I've never been in therapy, but from what I understand in the whole process, it's always the mother's fault. Think about it.
It's always.
Because you were in hell long enough, you know, nobody took care of you. But where's the responsibility of the father?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I just wanted to add, when you were talking about the stereotypes of women running in politics, you know, when I look at all these prospective candidates running for president, the women, you know, and I say to myself, you know, one, as a society, is one getting used to seeing women run for such a big office. So that, as a whole, for me, is like, because, you know, we're so used to seeing men run for those offices and trying not to be, set a stereotype or a tone of how she should act, or, you know, what is an issue she should be addressing. Like, all of those things, like, you know, for me, at least when I look at these candidates, I haven't really quite, not one really resonate with me. You know, I say, oh, I think she would be great. And I feel, because I think a lot of our, like you mentioned before, are trying to portray themselves something that they're really not. I think none of them have really truly an authentic way show who, you know, what is it to be a woman, you know, to be themselves instead of trying to be something that they need to be when they shouldn't. And I think that's hurting a lot of the candidates. And so I think they could do so well and so much better if they would just touch upon a lot of women issues, but just in general, just kind of be themselves, you know, when they're going out and campaigning. Because I've listened to a couple of speeches, and I don't know, I just felt a little bit disappointed. I think Elizabeth Warren was a little bit closer, because when she speaks, you can tell she's speaking to like, her heart is in it, you know. But along the way, with some of the lies about her being Indian and all that stuff, I just just don't understand, why they need to lie, they have so much going for themselves. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring up the whole stereotype thing. It's really interesting. If the survey was done and how women perceive other political candidates running and sort of weigh in.
Yeah, there's a chicken
perspectives on why do you think this candidate won? What are some
Yeah.
things that you wish you would see?
I think there's a chicken and egg problem with it too, because I think if you just had more women in politics, I think there would be less pressure in terms of the expectations of what a woman in politics should look like, whether it's be like a man or be a mother. If we actually get to a point where it's 50-50. But I think there are a lot of institutional reasons having to do with raising money. There are a lot of things going on that make it difficult. But one thing I will throw out there, and it's coming a little bit, if you think about parity democracy, what they're actually talking about is a set of constitutional amendments that validated gender quotas in Europe. They're very commonly used now, where there are laws that say that when you're running a political party, like a political party has a list of candidates, and you're just voting on party lists, they actually have to alternate male, female, male, female, and so that means that if the party wins all the seats, half the people are going to be women, right? And when most of my American constitutional law colleagues hear me talk about that, they say that would obviously be a violation of equal protection because you're making sex distinction in the law, right? And
the district leader,
right.
district leadership,
and in the United States, we actually have an experience with this because after the 19th Amendment was passed, a lot of states passed laws that said for political party county committees, you had to have one committee man and one committee woman per county or per district. So a lot of states, I think 14 states had these laws, but people started challenging them using the 19th Amendment, using the 14th Amendment, saying, how could you say one woman and one man? That's sex discrimination. Right? Or how could you, because it becomes sex discrimination because let's say a man doesn't get to be a committee man because they pick a woman and he thinks he is more qualified, right? Then he's saying that's sex discrimination against me as a man. And a lot of this, and so some of these things were struck down, some of them are still on the books in the states that had them. But they date to the moment after the 19th Amendment was ratified. But the reason they're coming one, but everyone is saying that that's a violation